Good morning. Today is Wednesday, December 21st. Today is Wednesday, December 1st, 2021, and this is the Urban Talk Radio 103.5 FM. This is the Urban Talk Radio 103.5 FM WNHHLP, where you will hear conversation, information, education, inspiration, and motivation from the American urban perspective. I am your host, Kingsley Ossei, and my co-host Shafiq is not in the studio yet. Today on Urban Talk Radio, you can join the conversation on Facebook at Bold Minds and Twitter at Bold Minds, on my Facebook page at Kingsley Ossei. You can also stream this show on your smartphone or computer by logging on to newhavenindependent.org. I do need some tea in my system. I realized I didn't even say you are listening to 103.5 FM. Today's topic will be community empowerment. Also, basically is based on the our special guest from Alliance for Community Empowerment, formerly Action for Bridgeport Community Development, ABCD, which is the home of the late Charlie Tisdale. Please help me welcome Dr. Monette Ferguson, Executive Director of the Alliance for Community Empowerment. How are you, lady?
I'm well. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I am stumbling all over the place. I'm over here drinking my homemade V8 from my mama-in-law instead of drinking some tea.
Well, it looks healthy.
Thank you very much. Healthy is the way to go. So, where do I start? Instead of me reading your bio, I will give you an opportunity to tell us a whole lot about yourself.
Okay. Again, thank you for this opportunity. I am born and raised in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Lived in Marina Village, and which is no longer standing on the south end of Bridgeport. I was also a Head Start child in the program that I had the blessing of overseeing for over 10 years here at what was then ABCD. Again, born and raised in the city, my love, my heart, my spirit is here in Bridgeport, but here at Alliance, formerly known as ABCD, we serve 8 towns in Fairfield County. Those 8 towns are Bridgeport, Stratford, Trumbull, Easton, Monroe, Fairfield, Westport, Norwalk, and I always forget one. I may have done all 8. So our reach is pretty vast, but again, born and raised here in Bridgeport. So I seriously rep this area, and it is my job and my pleasure to ensure that the most vulnerable folks in all of our communities are served with the most, with resources that help them evolve out of poverty.
So, now, I started off by saying you took over from where our late friend Charlie Tisdale took over. How long have you been working with that company?
So I've been with the agency for 20 years. I started as a caseworker in the early childhood program. I had the honor to work with Mr. Tisdale for many years before he transitioned. But yeah, it's been 20 years for me here at the organization.
Wow, that was that's a lot to step in. As you could see, if you are watching us here Facebook Live, I have a picture over here with 3 formerly Bridgeport greats that really passed, including Mr. Tisdale, whom I had opportunity of being in his presence. He was a mentor to my dear friend, my sister.
Kingsley, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I don't know if you see the picture on your end. On our end, we see a frozen screen.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. You see a frozen. Oh, so you're not seeing nothing on Dr. Monette, you didn't see anything either?
I did not.
Interesting. Still a frozen screen?
Nope, I see a picture now.
Oh, you see it now?
I see with Charles and Senator Wang and the dear Ed Gomes. Is that the picture?
Yes. And the pastor, Miss from I can't even remember the lady next to her. I can't even remember her name. She passed as well. She was in the name PT after her. What's the name?
Okay. So, oh my gosh, Geraldine Johnson.
Geraldine, yes.
Geraldine, yes.
Yes, Clayton.
Oh, Clayton, yes. Right, wrong Geraldine. Sorry.
That's Clayton. Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, and yes. So yeah, Mr. Tisdale was he was a big loss. I recall when his days was counting down, and I'll call V and I say, hey V, we need to go see Mr. Tisdale. It appears his days are counting down. So that was a lot of shoes you had to fill. So ABCD is now called. ABCD is now called Alliance for Community Development. Why the name change?
Empowerment.
And community empowerment. Why the name change?
So that's a question I get often, and I'm very excited to answer that question. Definitely. So as you know, the past name was ABCD, which referred specifically to just Bridgeport, and we are much more global than that. Also, we had a lot of interest from our funders, our federal and state funders, to be more inclusive in our title of what we really do. They really challenged us over time to have the name of the organization speak to exactly what the mission and the heart of the agency did for almost 60 years. Believe it or not, we'll be celebrating our 58th anniversary next year. So that challenge was met with a research-based process. We had focus groups, we had board member input, we had client input in surveys, we had staff input, and the words that emerged to the top were the words that exemplify and name our organization today.
I wish I was able to read your bio instead of asking you to sum it up, because you really, you really did summarize it, but not enough. You have a doctorate in education leadership.
I do.
Is that correct? Are you familiar with Dr. Adolph Brown?
I do not. I'm not familiar.
Okay, so Dr. Adolph Brown, he was our keynote speaker when we had the youth summit at the Bridgeport Arena. That's when we first met, and he's been a youth summit for one. He's been the keynote speaker for CAV Youth Summit a couple of times ever since. Matter of fact, he's going to be in Norwalk today. That's why I mentioned it. Now, let's talk about one of your programs, Energy Assistance.
Absolutely, it's timely. Yesterday, I woke up to 22-degree weather, and we know that Connecticut is fickle. Sometimes we have summer in the winter and winter in the summer, but this year, the almanac calls for particularly bitter colds. So what we like to do really early is to get information out about our Energy Assistance Program. Again, this program has existed for almost 60 years. We have a lot of folks that are aware of it, but we have a lot of folks that are unaware of the program. So it is income-based. And for our low-income families, you can apply and you can be awarded for cash assistance that goes directly for your heating source. And that heating source can be a number of ways, everything from oil to gas, to kerosene, or even pellets. I think they have some type of energy that they make out of some type of pellets, but the federal government sees to it that folks are able to stay warm that qualify for this program. We started taking applications back in August, which were our early intake. We've taken over almost 5,000 applications to date. So a lot of folks are in need, and a lot of folks really need help with these bills. We know COVID exacerbated that need. So folks that were able to maybe put a little something down on the bills didn't have any extra money to really pay down those high energy bills from even last season. So this year, we're asking folks to give us a call. The volume is crazy. I'm gonna apologize ahead of time. We get almost 1,000 calls a week for folks that are in need. We serve over 35,000 folks a year with all our programs. So you could only imagine the phone value. And we did open 2 new sites this year, one on Stratford Avenue and one on East Main Street. So we have built more capacity, but the need is greater as well. So we're actively taking applications. We're asking for the community's patience, but we are definitely around to help folks with their energy assistance needs. Also, we have utility assistance, and we have ARPA CARES dollars for folks that their utility or their electric, however they light their homes, are high. We also ask folks that give us a call and fill out applications for those as well. Those programs, again, are income eligible. They all go by income eligibility, and we are happy. If you don't know, just give us a call, and we are happy to go through the process, go through your income with you, and see if you qualify. You don't know unless you try.
The process got to be a little easier now because back in the days, you know, I went through my hard time as well, and I recall when I had to come to Park Avenue, and you have to make an appointment, and you have to stand in this long line, and you know, the process. I mean, you mentioned you got over 1,000 people waiting. It can't be as bad as when we had to come to Park Avenue and wait in the line.
So you're right. Comparably, not as bad. COVID really changed the way that we could touch community members, and because we can't touch community members the way we can't have those waiting rooms, we can't have those lines because of the pandemic. So now, yes, folks can apply online. They can get their applications. They can upload their documents to a secured website, email. They can have direct contact with the caseworker. They can make their appointments over the phone or over the web. So things have changed, but we still have a limited amount of caseworkers. I think right now we still have under 30 caseworkers, and that's all done by budgets. We don't control that. Those are federal dollars that are allocated to those budgets for staffing. But these folks are working really hard. They do every single year, and the need is greater. So yes, it has gotten a little easier, but the capacity has grown.
And that information can be obtained at alliancect.org/energy-assistance. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We have a wonderful revamped new website. You can find anything you need on our website. And if you are not tech savvy, please give us a call, 203-366-8241. We have an automated system. If you prefer to talk to someone live, you can also talk to our receptionist.
And so we are speaking about electricity as well as water or sewer bill. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So the water program, it's called LIWAP, if you believe that or not. It is a brand new program afforded by the federal government through COVID funds, specifically through ARPA funds, where folks who are behind on their sewage or water bill can apply. If you already receive energy assistance, you are automatically eligible if you have a water or sewage bill in your name. If you own a home and you've been a victim of unemployment or underemployment or whatever the pandemic has brought to your doorstep, you also may be eligible to apply for the water assistance program. Again, this is a brand new system. We're still working out the kinks. We're still working on contracts. There's tons of water companies across the state. So where we had contracts with gas companies over time and utility companies over time, this is a new venture for us. So we're asking that folks apply early, that they are patient, so we can get these dollars out when the time comes for their water assistance.
And what type of documents do they need?
That is a great question. So we always need proof of income. We're always going to ask how many folks are in the household, because that's how we determine eligibility. We're going to ask folks for their address. We're going to ask folks for things like birth certificates and social security numbers. There is a list of documents, and I don't want to act like I know everything, because I definitely don't. There's a list of documents that are required on our website. And also, if you call, they can also list off those documents for you.
Shafiq just joined us. Shafiq, I just forwarded an email of Dr. Ferguson's bio, so you may want to take a moment, open it, and get familiar with her, so you can join in. I also send you text messages of all their programs so you can catch up to speed as we conduct this interview. What if you are self-employed?
If you're self-employed, most folks get W-9, I believe, or some type of tax document that they can bring to us. We absolutely accept that. There are a number of documents that folks, if they don't have traditional income or traditional, what we would call like pay stubs and things of that nature, there's absolutely ways that folks could absolutely document whether, even if they have, thank you, a 1099, I appreciate that. Even if folks do not have income, there's also ways of documenting that as well.
So I'm going to be juggling as we do this interview. You talked about how you came up, grew up in, did you say PT or the village?
Marina
Village. That
yes.
means you are not a product of your environment. As I tell my youth, we like to use that word. Matter of fact, it's a clothing line. I'm a product of my environment. It sounds good saying it, but being a product of your environment is an excuse. It's like a cop out. Say this is who I became because that's all it was accessible to us. So you escaped, and putting a doctor in front of your name really means that you are not a product of your environment. And I do commend you. I love women in leadership, and I think we are in a territory where there is a lot of women taking upon positions, and I hate when women are really tearing each other down. I'm like, guys, you guys are on the come up, and you need to continue lift each other up instead of tearing each other down. And I'll give you an example of when VP Kamala Harris was picked, and you hear people tearing her down because of some policies she made in the past, and then you see women and Black women doing it as well. And I'm like, geez, you guys came too far. To see a Black woman take upon the leadership of a VP, that should be opening doors for a lot more. It's a glass ceiling that has been broken, or that's going to be broken. And there is no need to be trying to tear each other down. So I do commend how far you came from and where you are. That is very inspiring.
I really appreciate that. I'd like to address the whole product of your environment. I have to say that everyone's road is different, and I'm very blessed. I have a very strong support system. I have a very strong belief system. My family believed that education was the great equalizer, where if you came from poverty, if you educated yourself, you can supersede certain circumstances and barriers. As a Black woman, that could be seen, it used to be like a triple bottom line, right? I'm Black, I'm a woman, and at the time I was young and uneducated. And that could be 3 strikes against any woman of those characteristics in this country. But I have to agree with you that there are women that have superseded me that I look to as examples, including my own mother and my own grandmother, who defied odds and built lives and futures for their children. But women like Maya Angelou and Oprah Winfrey, and who came from backgrounds that could have been catastrophic, the end, if you will, for those type of women. And even here in Bridgeport, there are women, Black women, women of color, beautiful women of color that have just been trailblazers for people like me, and also men. There are spaces where I am the first woman to ever lead this organization in almost 60 years.
Wow.
That says a lot.
It does.
It says a lot. I'm super proud to be able to open doors for the next woman who leads this organization, but also any woman who thinks that, only a man or only they can do that. It is completely, it's a fantasy. It's not reality. 5 years ago, this is my 3rd year in this chair. 3 years ago, I never saw myself sitting here. I never saw myself leading such a prestigious organization, but I always knew I could lead because of the way I was raised. So even folks who may come from humble beginnings like myself, poverty like myself, belief in yourself and the people, surround yourself with people that believe in you, and you could do anything.
Well, I mean, some of these positions, it's like who could do it better? Addressing pocketbook issues. I mean, you are such in a big shoe. Stepping in from where Mr. Tisdale took it from. He raised the bar so high. And then you came into a time where you had to change with time. For instance, when I started my organization, Connecticut Against Violence, we started from social media. Matter of fact, when we came in as social media, I don't know any grassroots organization that was active on social media at all. So we were doing things where people couldn't understand, like where did this organization come from? And that's because I came from using my background in as a DJ and doing promotion and marketing from record labels. And I say, that is what we do to, that's what the kids could adapt to. So, we had to use the tools available to be able to reach the kids. And now, you cannot get away from social media. So I like the fact that, you stepped in to adapt with time. And you've brought attention to the agency. And matter of fact, I have to thank you for your contribution to our 4th annual A Hip Hop Expression of Black History. When we had a conversation with Rakim, I gave you a shout. You responded back and you said, Kingsley, what do you need? I said, I really don't need anything. If you could purchase some books so we could give it to the kids. And you did exactly that. And you showed up, the books came, and I do want to thank you for it. And you were also in that room where we had the gun violence, hip hop and gun violence forum with Senator Blumenthal, the mayor, and all our stakeholders. What did you take from that forum?
So first of all, I want to thank you because I am a product and a child of hip hop.
Okay.
So, so I, born and raised in a time where hip hop was not just music, it's a movement, right?
Right.
So being in the room with Rakim was everything for me. So thank you for that opportunity. And pleasure. Folks who know me, they really know me, they'll be like, my hip hop is life, just like I think football is life, hip hop is life, right? So so thank you for that opportunity. But being in that room to me was very surreal. Hearing the stories of young folks that glean to music as a way of survival, putting down their thoughts or even sharing their thoughts in the room about how violence impacts their life every single day. I mean, I grew up in housing projects in the 80s where we were all family. And though there was violence, it seemed not to really impact me as a child as much as it impacts the folks today, because your neighbor was looking out for you and you know where the bad folks were and you know where to go and where not to go, or somebody was telling your parents, or somebody, we were raised as a village. It was Marina Village, but we were raised as a village. Today, children have so many, or young people have so many other impacts, social media, as you say, and gangs and all this on top of all the other things they have to deal with. They have to be raised as adults. Almost from the beginning, I had the opportunity to actually be a child. So I saw that loss, that mourn of childhood through some of these young people that were speaking at the time. And I also saw them, I did see a light at the end of the tunnel because you have resources and your program and the resources from the folks in the room that were obviously there to build a bridge and a trampoline for children to launch, not out of their circumstances, but even just out of the moment for a while so they can grow and see that there are other ways of expressing themselves. We know it's not easy living in the hood, and we could talk all day long about what we think it should be or what we would like, but these young folks go back home to reality. So how do we build reality within their reality so they're strong and they survive it? And I think the combination of music and expression and this venue to allow them to speak and articulate their feelings, I think it builds that bridge. So kudos to you and your team as well.
Well, thank you very much. You broke it down pretty well. And sometimes I take a moment and I'll go into the corner somewhere and I will cry out when You look in their room and you're like, oh my God, the resources are here. We have with Juan Castillo, program director of YBC. We have DJ Buck of Hot 93. So we have a program director that reaches the kids. We have a program director that reaches the parents. We have all our stakeholders. We have all our public officials. And then, like you said earlier, as a hip hop fan, being able to stand next to Rakim, whether it's shake hands or whatnot, versus going to a show and being paying about 60, 70 to $100 in the nosebleed somewhere only to watch him on stage. And we go so hard to make this event happen, and we take a beating from people in our own community. People will say, oh, your agenda this, your agenda that, your agenda. I'm like, what is the agenda? The agenda is the kids. That is the agenda. What kind of hidden agenda do I have for an event that I am not making a penny out of? It says a lot about why we the name of the show was community empowerment, because we do need community empowerment, and a lot of time we are tearing each other down instead of empowering. Shafiq, did you want to chime in?
I'm listening. This sounds good to me.
By the way, Shafiq is a retired police officer, and he's also a new alderman in New Haven as well.
Hello, Shafiq. It's very nice to meet you. I'm well. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
I would just like to encourage you, Kingsley, to silence the haters by just turning them off. It was not easy sitting in this seat after an icon ran this organization for 40 years, and I had my own vision and I could already see it done. And 40 years ago, ABCD had offices all over the city, and we touch folks in the neighborhood where they are. And I always visioned and envisioned us getting back to reaching the people instead of the people reaching us. Charles, that was one thing that Charles always said to me. Mr. Tisdale said, Monette, don't ever expect the people to come to you. You go to the people. You go to the people. So what you're doing is going to the people. And when folks say things that are negative, or they say things that are not at the heart of your of the impact that you're trying to make, those people don't mean you any good, and they're just simply labeled as haters. And they may not like that, and probably people may not like what I say, but at the end of the day, there is an agenda to be won, and those are youth and vulnerable folks that need folks like us to forge the way. And it's not that they can't for themselves, it's that they just need a little hand. That's all, right? So it's a hand up. It's not a handout. And folks who don't understand that will never understand that. Wow. You can't waste time on haters. So do what you do, brother. Like, don't ever get caught up in the rah, 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 and the rhetoric. Like, the noise, it never goes away. But you have to recognize that it's noise.
Well, like Dr. Adolph Brown will say, we have accountability. I have accountability partners around me. And like I did hit up my brother Ernie Newton this morning, and I shared something private with him. I said, Brother Ernie, I'm going to continue to be that little brother as your accountability partners. Certain things you should not respond. My sis Vicentia Duce once gave me a book called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, because I used to sweat all the small stuff. When I started CAV, people were coming swinging, and I'm like, guys, you guys have no idea how much money I was making in the business that I was in before I started CAV, because a young man was gunned down. So I came with the passion to do this. I did not step in. I did not come with a business plan to make money, do CAV. And with, so I have a very thin skin when it comes to that. And I have accountability partners that was continuously telling me that, hey, Kingsley, you do not have to respond to everything negative. And, I was doing the same thing, passing some of that thing on to my brother Ernie. So we're going to do a station identification, and then Brother Shafiq may have a question or two for you. This is the Urban Talk Radio 103.5 FM WNHHLP. I am your host, Kingsley, Ossei, and my co-host, Shafiq. Just join us. And if you are just joining us today on Urban Talk Radio, you can join the conversation on Facebook at Bold Minds and Twitter at Bold Minds. Also on my Facebook page, Kingsley, Ossei. You can also stream this show on your smartphone or computer by logging on to newhavenindependent.org. We have our special guest, Dr. Monette Ferguson, who's the Executive Director of Alliance for Community Alliance for Community Empowerment, also formerly known as Action for Bridgeport Community Development. Shafiq, how are you, brother?
What's going on, man?
You look very serious today, man. Did you have a bad week or something?
I never have a bad week.
My wife just got back from Africa.
My wife just got back from Africa.
When you getting sworn in?
January 1st.
January 1st, okay.
Yeah, but the job has started.
Jobs just started, okay. Well, I'm going to hold you
accountable.
I'm going to hold you accountable, so get ready for me.
Bring your accountability stick. You better bring a helmet, too. Better bring a helmet. Be like that movie. You hit me with a bat, I'm hit you right back with the bat. Same time, bam.
Talk to me, bro. We have Dr. Ferguson in the studio.
So, good afternoon, Dr. Ferguson.
Hi.
So yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying the conversation this morning. You know, sometimes just gotta listen. You know, you don't have to ask a lot of questions. The work you do is that work that needs to be done. And I'm looking at what happened recently, the last couple of days, where in Hamden the student got stabbed up. We got a lot of shootings of teenagers now in New Haven, shootings of teenagers in Waterbury. Waterbury teenager was, I believe, stabbed to death. You know, we just see this stuff happening amongst the youth, and I just ask myself as I'm watching this stuff unfold, where's the commitment to the youth? I mean, like, what do the city budgets look like when it comes to investing in our youth? Or do we just keep deferring it to, well, they don't, you know, making it about the schools? This is about creating an environment for all of our young people. So what are your thoughts around that? What are your thoughts around?
I mean, by no means am the expert. My heart breaks for violence, especially around young folks. I mean, young folks of color specifically, because they are our future. I think the position that you hold and the position that you are being ushered into, even as we speak, you said the work has already began, creates a way for you to be that accountability partner. It's not all government. Government can't pretend to solve it, but we also know that parents and communities also need resources and guidance as well. We know that there are neighborhoods across this country that are safe and that their young people are safe. For some reason, we struggle with using those examples in our own neighborhoods. Maybe it's the doctor in me that understands that you don't have to recreate the wheel, and nothing is really about perfection. It's about what's perfect for you and yours. But I think sometimes we strive for something that is right within our reach, and examples that already exist. And then you also have pockets of excellence within those same cities you just named that have this horrific youth violence, right? So how do we marry or couple or braid those pockets of excellence with these areas of trauma for our children, so we can make a future for all of us? Those are questions that I think we've all struggled with for decades. Here at Alliance, and again, we partner with folks that do it best. We partner with folks that we could help hold accountable and find accountability measures with, and also connect community members to those programs that have best outcomes. And we know that those programs are going to keep young people safe and keep parents engaged at whatever level that they claim that they're capable of, because it is happening. Again, pockets of excellence, but some of those organizations and those structures are very under-resourced. They're very under-recognized. And quite frankly, hopefully with ARPA funding that's just come down from the federal government, some of these organizations can uplift themselves and do a greater reach or have expansion so that they can turn the corner on some of this horrific circumstances. And this, again, we've been dealing with this for ages, right? And it goes back to what our parents did, what our grandparents did or didn't do. You can't change history, but you could definitely rewrite your future if you pay attention to what historical factors add into why things are the way they are. And I know I probably said a lot, so excuse my long answer, but I hope I answered your question.
No, you did. I mean, it was good. You know, one of the challenges I think that's going to be, at least going to be one of my challenges is, you know, we kind of work when it comes to youth and things like around the city budget, we work it backwards, right? So it's like, let's line up all the things that are important, which are things that run the city, but then we kind of get down to piecing together the youth plan. And we really need a mission statement around many of these metros for what is going to be our outlook on youth, you know, which I kind of believe you look at what was your crime rate, and then you take a percentage of the city budget and you keep increasing that just around youth services until you can level off the crime rate. Because if you kind of follow the philosophy of, over police and under protected, so the goal would be to add in those services you're talking about. How do you get to it without a formula? So there has to be some type of formula, which is like, okay, let me see. We had X amount of youth involved in this level of crime. We've got this amount of youth who are dropped out or truant. We have 0 community services that support them when they're dropped out or disconnected from school, and et cetera, et cetera. We don't have a trade program. We don't have this. We don't have that. We don't have this. When you start looking at all the things that youth do not have, start figuring out, okay, maybe we need to actually have a community center in every neighborhood, right? So every neighborhood of most metros is not poor, as you kind of indicated. It's just certain neighborhoods, in those neighborhoods that often poor, don't have the resources, don't have the infrastructure, and they got closed community centers. So it just kind of, I use the word, I was taken aback when I was driving into Hamden the other day and I got a news alert of a stabbing in front of the high school, and I was like, wow. But I was actually driving through a nice area of Hamden that I like to drive through. I believe it's where the old Newhallville Community Center was. So it's like right over the border of Hamden. I don't know the street. Might be Arch Street. And I was like, wow. I remember when this is where we used to go play basketball with the kids from the neighborhood at night. And I remember when this was there, and it's been closed probably for 16 years. It doesn't exist anymore. They closed it, wow. Then it was contaminated. And then I think of things like the Q House that closed, I believe, around 2003, which just recently got open. But the question is, how many kids died between that time?
I have to tell you too. I mean, I remember playing at the Girls and Boys Club on North Avenue here in Bridgeport as a young woman with my siblings, and we were dropped off with $1 maybe, to get something out of the vending machine for hours. But we were safe and we were supervised. And we left what the housing project to go just to another neighborhood, maybe 10 or so blocks away. But that was our safe haven. And I have to agree with you. And even though we lived in a dangerous neighborhood full of poverty, I don't know, it wasn't, like I said, as a child, you don't see it that way. But then as an adult, you look back and you were like, dang. We were placed in, there were resources, and we were placed in situations that kept us safe. So those type of, that 16-year-old building that has yet to revive itself and bring life and resources for young folks could very well be the answer that's right on the tip of someone's nose. And we know there's funding, right? You could remediate a building with federal dollars if it's contaminated. These are not things that people have to rethink about. There are tons of resources available for the problems that we as Black and brown folks suffer from over decades. And if money's not just the answer, right? Money's not just the answer. You need a strategy. You need a leader. you need sometimes, like you said, that bat and that helmet. So it takes a lot. But it seems like you're in the right place at the right time.
No, you're in the right place. I'm just a passenger. Y'all the drivers. Just a passenger. That's all. I'm actually looking for a helmet and trying to hide the bat in case we get stopped by the police. Kingsley's bat.
America, right?
Yeah, it's Kingsley's bat. That's Kingsley's bat, sir.
That's Kingsley's bat.
Not mine. Sir, that's not my bat.
So we got a few more minutes left. I want to continue to talk about your services. Supportive, let's talk about supportive services. I'm looking at one of your flyers. Supportive services, you have job search assistance, education, certification assistance, GED, diploma, emergency rental, utility assistance, case management, diaper bank, community resources, referrals. Give us a brief about supportive services.
Absolutely. So when community members call, sometimes we don't know what we need. We have this big problem that may have multi layers to it, and we're not quite sure where to start. So that's why we have our social service department. Anyone from any background with any income can call the organization with their needs. And then we do an assessment, and we match, instead of matching the program with the person, we match the person with the program. So whatever you're going through, and that's not an all exhaustive list of what we do. We also broker several partnerships with individual organizations and folks across the state. So for the very reason that everyone has unique needs, so we can match those needs across, whether it's across the city or across the state, we want to be sure that people are being treated with respect. We want to be sure that people are being treated, that their issue is being heard, that they're being spoken to in the language that they understand. And the only way we can do that as an organization is through partnerships, through whether it's MOUs or contracts. So when someone comes to us and says, well, of course, Alliance can't be the doer of all things, because we would water down our excellence if we tried that. So we have to partner with folks that do it very, very well, and then make referrals and then follow up. And some folks who say they do it well fall short. So maybe there's something Alliance can do to uplift them or to strengthen them so that we all win. Because when a community member is not winning, we're not winning. So our supportive service system is vast. Like I said, everything from employment to GED assistance, you name it. Folks call with a myriad of needs. Again, COVID has exacerbated those needs. So back in the day when folks were like, you're at Dunkin' Donuts, you're making a good 40 hours a week. Well, those hours may have been cut for whatever reason. So now you really actually need to either find something else, or you don't want to double up on employment, because then you won't have time to see the kids or to help with homework. So we try to connect folks with higher levels of employment. And if they're not ready for that yet, maybe it's our relationship with Housatonic to get a training, to get, and a lot of these, for folks that qualify, a lot of these opportunities are free. And it is our job to match folks with opportunities that are not burdensome to them, but to help them launch out of the moment that they're in that may seem pretty difficult.
And you guys are like the major record labels. You are the machines. You have the small nonprofit organizations who who are expertise of certain things, but don't have the financial capability. They don't have the big grant writers. They don't know the languages, the point system to write to get that grant. And it's very important that the majors who are in the position to be able to get the funding are able to work with them, because a lot of time they come and go, because people think of nonprofit and they think of it as you got to be working for free. And a lot of time we start nonprofit organization because we had a passion to do it, and we're trying to juggle through employment and doing it. And then somewhere down the line, we realize that the community is really depending on you and acting like you owe them something. So you have to really give them your all. And giving them your all means it has to become an employment.
You're 100% right. And I think for people like ourselves, specifically people of color, we have to understand that nonprofit is a tax status. It's not a feeling. It's not an emotion. It is not something that you want to do because the Lord has led you to do it. It could be a combination of that, but nonprofit is a tax status. So when folks feel like I really need to help people, sometimes it's not starting your own business, because essentially that's really what it is. And nonprofit rules can be more tricky and a lot more intricate. And like you said, the grant writing and the seeking funding it's a heavy lift for somebody who really just has a good heart and they just want to help people.
Right. You specialize in grant writing, matter of fact. I see that in your bio.
I do, yes. And I've been blessed. I've had a lot of experience. I've been very successful with grant writing, but I'm also very successful with relationship building. So I believe that all good relationships begin with a one-on-one, a conversation. And from there, all types of good things can come from that. And that's also how you pick up on folks' energy and how they feel what you feel, or if they care about what you care about. And sometimes those folks actually have money and resources. So then that blossoms a whole nother level of the relationship. But grant writing is for me, the skill of grant writing that I have has been built over 20 years. It's not something, of course, yes, you could take a course, and if you could obtain certain knowledge and do certain things, you could be very successful at it. But it's a skill that's obtained over time. And I think when folks get into nonprofit and they think that they're going to just write grants to keep their organization afloat, it's a little more difficult than that.
Okay, so next will be early programs. You got school readiness, early Head Start, infant and toddler, and Head Start preschool.
Absolutely. So that's a program that's very close and near and dear to my heart. I directed that program for 10 years. So we have a very large early learning department. We operate 15 sites across the city. 10 of them are in Bridgeport. We just opened a new site in PT in the Gary Crook Center, which is a huge blessing for that neighborhood. Opportunities, early learning opportunities for children. So what we specialize in is quality care and school readiness opportunities. So when children come to us, they leave us ready for school. So we start with pregnant moms with home visits, so we can have a family with us for up to 5 years if we meet a mom when she's pregnant. And then the child goes into early Head Start, and then Head Start, and of course onto kindergarten. And we have transitioned thousands, including myself, of children in this local area in Greater Fairfield County, launch them into excellence. And I have to say, I'm an example of that. My preschool teacher still works here, and though she's in management, and today's her birthday, shout out to Miss Johnson. She had taught me the power of relationships and nurturing from preschool. And that's what Head Start is all about. So it's also an income-based program. We want the most vulnerable families so we can care for them and we can relieve the burden of childcare. It's a very expensive burden. Folks need to get back to work, but if you qualify, there are subsidies and income-based formulas that could help reduce the price of childcare through the Head Start and early Head Start and the school readiness programs. Also, we take Care for Kids and lots of other programs that help folks manage the high cost of childcare, because it is very high.
All right, and then we have youth services. But before we go to youth services, let me sign off on the radio. Harry, our producer, just alerted me. Okay. This is the Urban Talk Radio 103.5 FM WNHHLP. I am your host, Kingsley Ossei, and my co-host, Shafiq. And if you are just joining us in the last part of our show, you can follow the conversation on Facebook at Bold Minds and Twitter at Bold Minds. Also on my Facebook page, Kingsley OSEI. You can also stream this show and previous shows on your smartphone by logging on to newhavenindependent.org. Thank you for joining us. Remember, Urban Talk Radio airs every Wednesday, 11 a.m. And don't forget to log on to www.alliancect.org for more information on how you can be service for the Alliance for Community Empowerment. Thanks to our special guest, Dr. Monette Ferguson, who is the executive director. The show continues on our FB, probably for like another 15 minutes. youth services. Let's talk about before school, after school, and summer school program.
Absolutely. So we are a contractor with the City of Bridgeport Lighthouse Program. We operate, I think we're up to 10, if not between 10 and 13 sites. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact number. But we do after school care, as well as we do the Friday Night Live at the high schools, Central High School, and I believe Bassick is the second high school that we opened this year. There's also the same program at Harding through another provider. But for years, Alliance has partnered with the city to create care and safety for children who need some extra time away from, of course, they can't go home right away, whether it's care or safety or whatever the case may be. But Lighthouse is a program that, again, has been around for a long time, that is strengthened through partnerships. And Alliance is one of those partners.
Shafiq, any comment or any question for Dr. Ferguson?
She rocking it, man. She could have co-hosted this show. She rocking it. Seriously.
She was a little, I'm not sure if she was a little nervous coming on. They emailed me this morning, says, can we send our questions in advance?
I said, man, she one of those people. She one of those people.
We don't send questions in advance.
These dudes gonna mess up my grant money. I can't be messing with that.
No, that question came from me. And the reason I send the question is because I'd like to be prepared and be as articulate as possible. So even though I am articulate and I am prepared, because I talk about what I know and my job is my passion, so it comes really easy for me and it flows. But if there's something you were to ask me that I wasn't prepared to answer, I would feel pretty bad. So that's why I asked.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
That's a good.
You guys know I do this all the time.
Right.
Good answer.
No, but you know what? The problem is the gotcha questions, like I answered. The gotcha. Michael Jordan and Michael Jackson only had one person in their career that they trusted to do their interview, and those people
really.
Yes, and those people distributed the interview to other media outlets because they were.
I know that.
You can't trust the media. You tell them one thing and they print something else.
That's true.
So I think it was Ahmad Rashad was the only person who used to do Michael Jordan interview.
Wow. I think I don't think I've ever been. I've been asked questions that have caused me to pause. Right. But also it makes me a stronger articulator when someone asks me something on the fly. I should be able to answer it, right? If the answer is true and and it's based in fact, you absolutely should be able to answer it. But because the way the world works, and now there's political answers and non-political answers, and you don't want to offend folks and all that great stuff. Right. I prefer to be prepared. But in this case, this was completely benign. So you guys made me feel very comfortable, and the conversational flow of the interview was very welcome. Thank you.
Well, it's a community radio, so it's all about sharing resources and providing the resources. What do you think what was the challenge in the Bridgeport community for somebody such as yourself who was born and raised in their community? What's our challenge? There is so many talent and resources in there. And I hate when people always say, there is nothing for the kids to do. There is nothing for the kids to do. And then when you put up programs, you can't find kids to participate in the program. So I, for one, I never accept that there is nothing for the kids to do argument. What do you think is our challenge?
I think our challenge is communication. I think we think people know, and we take it for granted. We think people think the way we think. Right. And I think that's a major mistake, especially amongst providers like myself. I always try to take the opportunity to step outside myself and listen to consumers, because consumers will tell you. A lot of our programs maybe not offer transportation, and that's the barrier, right? And we say, well, we got this program, but it's across town, and Joey can't get there, or he's scared, or whatever the case may be. So the more you pull out the anecdotal reasoning behind things, I think it all comes down to communication. And then, of course, access, right? So just because you have a program doesn't mean it's accessible to everyone. And then maybe there's so many programs that are so much like each other. There could be more opportunities for folks to braid together their expertise and offer one great program instead of 10.
You're talking about collaboration, but that don't happen often because people are too busy trying to compete.
You're
the egos are
100% right.
competing. It's like, oh, I gotta make sure that this. I thought about this last night, just like this, and it must happen 5 years from now, just like this. It was a philanthropic epiphany. Sit down. It was just you thinking that night.
Right. And we
on a sugar rush.
Our dreams just the way we see them, right? We don't
that was your post. That was your post. Ate the entire bag of Pacquiao chips. Sugar rush at 1 a.m. That's not an epiphany.
Let me write this down, right?
Yeah. No, you're right. No, I mean, if the collaboration, there was a former mayor who I consider to be a mentor. He's a pretty smart dude. Mayor John DeStefano. We went to him about an issue with the Muslim community, and he said, "Listen, I'm gonna give you some advice." He said, "Collaborate. Try to find your allies. When you got a big project, a big something you're trying to bite off, don't try to bite it by yourself. Collaborate. Get together, get people in the same room with the same interests, and try to approach it." I'm thoroughly convinced now at this point. Will take a lot to make me think differently, probably because I'm 54 too. As Black people, we've been conditioned to do much of the things we do that don't get us moving forward. Now, I'm not talking about the violence. I'm talking about the inability to collaborate. I'm talking about the inability to trust each other, the inner culture anxiety, the inner ethnic conflict, still about light skin, dark skin, and things of this nature, and being allowed to be utilized like that. So I'm convinced these are not just post-slavery things, but this is part of the conditioning. Carter G. Woodson called it in his book, The Miseducation of a Negro, and I'm gonna keep it at that. Urban Talk Radio, Kingsley, I'm rolling it over to you. Kingsley, can you hear us? You're on mute, brother. Don't let they mute your voice. Sorry, don't let your voice be muted. Don't let your voice be stole. Get your voice back. Get your voice back, black man. All right. You muted again. They took it. Back off Kingsley's voice. Give him his. Get your hand off that mute button. Come back to us, Kingsley. You're on mute. Kingsley, you're on mute, man. You're on mute, Kingsley. He's just talking. This poor thing. Kingsley, we cannot hear you.
I'm unmuted. What's going on?
No, you was unmuted, brother. Brother, you was unmuted.
Am I still muted?
Not no more. We can hear you.
Dr. Ferguson, please take us away.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on the show. The show, I think one of the words you used was inspiration and motivation, two of the words you used. And today I am motivated and inspired to complete the rest of my day and the rest of my week, knowing that I was able to share on a wonderful program with two great guys who are really making it happen, getting the information to the people. So thank you for the opportunity. And I hope to see you again soon.
Definitely.
In the community with the next summit. I know the pandemic kind of threw things off, but we would love to help anyway to move things forward.
Hopefully I could get KRS-One or one of those guys. That's I try to go high. Anyway, big shout to all the women in the community that are really holding it down. Lorraine Gibson, Miss Terry Williams, Jeanette Ortiz, Nancy Kenwood, Anna Anderson, Carolyn Vermont, my sister V, Ossei, and everybody else that I have forgotten. And like she said, it's a conversation, information, education, and inspiration and motivation from the American urban perspective. Until then, we see you next week. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Ferguson.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank you.